Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome to Lady Khadija radiallahu anha online college, A-level maths year 2, and we're looking at parametric equations, a new chapter for this lesson. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Let's think about the kind of equations you've been working on so far. You've got things like y equals 2x or x plus 1 equals y. What this means is that if you have a two-dimensional graph, you've got x on one axis and y on the other, then you can take either of these equations and that'll let you plot a graph. This graph will tell you what the y coordinate is based on the x coordinate, or the other way around. It'll tell you, if you were to rearrange it, the x coordinate based on the y coordinate. But real life is not really like that, because we can have the coordinates x or y. Let's suppose we're talking about a ship crossing the sea, or an aeroplane crossing the globe, or we're talking about a car moving from one place to another. Then the x and the y, the position of the car, or the position of the ship, doesn't really depend upon the y coordinate, and the y coordinate doesn't really depend on the x coordinate, but it depends on time, how much time has passed since the ship has been moving. So then it's easier to write the x as an equation based on time and the y as an equation based on, again, the same time. So now we have three letters. We have the x and the y, which is the coordinates that we're used to seeing. But then the third letter we have, the third variable, is something that's just making more sense based on what we're studying. So in this case, it's time, but in other cases, it could be something else, something that just makes it very, very easy to write an equation linking the x with that third variable. So when we do that, when we link the x and the y to a third variable, that third variable is called a parameter, and these pair of equations are called parametric equations. Parameter just means like a third variable, and parametric equations means both equations have got this third variable in. So let's see how we solve them. In the first example, we have x is a function, is an equation based on 2 times t. So the x coordinate is equal to 2 times time, maybe, if time is what the t stands for. The y coordinate can be worked out based on time squared, or t squared. And the limits for t are -3 to +3. So the first question is, can we work out an equation for y in terms of x? And yes, we can. It's standard GCSE rearranging. So we'll take the first equation, 2t, we'll rearrange it for t, so that'll be x over 2 is equal to t, x over 2. So now I've rearranged my equation that I had, and I've got it for t as the subject. And now I can substitute that into my second equation. So instead of saying y equals t squared, I've got a little expression here for t. So I can put that in, which is x over 2. So that can go in for t, which is this. And then I can square that, because that's what the equation says. Square it, simplify, and you end up with x squared over 4. Okay, not too hard, just rearranging and then substituting in. We could have done it the other way around. We could have rearranged this one and then substituted it into the first one. Whichever way seems easiest for you, both are correct. Okay, second part of the question is to work out the domain and the range. So the domain, if you remember, is based on the x values. What's the range of x values? What's the limits on the x values? And range is based on the y values. So let's take a look. For the x values, we're going to need the equation for x. So if we grab that and take a closer look at that, it says that the x values are going to always be 2 times the t values. So the t values, the smallest was -3. So that means if I substitute that in, 2 times -3 means that the smallest x value would be -6. The biggest t value is 3. So if I substitute that in, 2 times the 3 makes 6. So the domain, meaning the x values, will go between, will have limits between -6 and 6. We can do the same for the range by just looking at the y equation. The y equation is this one here, y equals t squared. So let's try and think what happens to that when we put in the lowest and the biggest t we can. So -3, sometimes it's not about putting in the lowest and the biggest, but whatever we can do from the range of t values to try and get the biggest y and the smallest y. So let's try the smallest y. If we put in -3, then -3, when it gets squared, it's going to turn into 9, which is quite a big number. So maybe another value can give us the smallest y possible. So what about 0? If I put 0 in for the t, then 0 squared is just 0. So that looks like that's the smallest y value possible. And what about the biggest y value possible? Probably 3 is going to do it. So 3 squared makes 9. So that looks like that's the biggest y value possible. So we can say that the y will have limits between, it will never go below 0. 0 is the smallest it will get to, and 9 is the highest it will get to. So the range would be 0 to 9. Join me for more on parametric equations tomorrow. Just, oh, one thing I forgot is the name. So the original equations are called parametric. And once we rearrange it and get it in terms of y and x, that's called a Cartesian equation. Join me tomorrow, inshallah, if God wills. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be with you and the mercy and blessings of God.